take you on a journey through sprint retrospectives. Now, once upon a time, there was a team of SQL wizards, DevOps clerics, or maybe more like DevOps black mages. And this team really enjoyed using sprint retrospectives to reflect and look back and think about what went well back in their sprint, what didn't go so well in that sprint, and use that data to try to avoid making mistakes in the future. Now, this format of what went well, what didn't go so well, what to keep doing, is the format that most people use for their sprint retrospectives. But this team grew tired of this old format, so they decided to go on a quest to find a better retrospective format. And we call this the retro of retros. Now, this is how this worked. Each member of the team split up, went out into the world to try to find a different type of retrospective format to use and try. And now, over the course of about, say, a quarter or so, each member of the team took turns leading a sprint retrospective. And they used all of the different types of formats that they went out and got. So they would switch over format and format until they found some that they liked. Now, some of the formats that they tried include the Three Little Pigs. So for this format, the team drew on a whiteboard a house of straw, house of wood, and a house of bricks. And now then the team took turns writing down aspects of their tech stack that they would consider to be in the house of straw, wood, or brick. And then this helped the team determine things that they felt really good about in their tech stack versus things that they didn't feel so confident about in their house of straws. And now this really helped the team figure out what things they really need to spend more time working on versus what things maybe they could leave be for a little bit. The next format that the team tried was the hot air balloon exercise. Now, in this exercise, the team drew a hot air balloon on a whiteboard, but they also had different aspects to think about. They drew over on the distance some sunny, hot weather that they wanted to get to. And then over on the other side, they drew some bad weather that they're trying to avoid. And then at the bottom, they draw sandbags. And those are the things that are holding down the team. Now, I'm no expert on hot air balloons, but apparently hot air balloons don't actually use sandbags. Only gas air balloons do. And I didn't know there was even such a thing as a gas air balloon until I looked it up, but I am no expert. Now, just for the sake of the exercise, what this team now has to do is think about aspects of their tech stack, or maybe even their team, or maybe where they want to go to. So on the sunny weather side, the team can think about what they want to accomplish, things that they really want to get to. Maybe that's better test coverage. Maybe that's a better QA process. And then over on the bad weather side, the team can think about things that they want to avoid. And then for the sandbags, the team can really think about what things they feel are holding them down. And this really gets you out of your typical retrospective format of what went well, what didn't go so well, and this really gets the team thinking more big picture. Now, another format that the team tried, and this is a little bit different, it's really more for the product owner, or the Gandalf, if you will, of the team. And this was the Story Oscars. For this version of the Sprint Retro, the team took turns nominating different user stories for that sprint, for the Story Oscars, for, say, best user story, most annoying user story, and then also coming up with categories of their own. And now this exercise, while it doesn't really get you to think about what went well or what didn't go so well in the sprint, what this does get the team to do is to think more about what they want to get out of a user story. So this exercise could be really helpful for, say, a new product owner who's trying to understand how to better work with a team and what the team really needs out of a user story. Lastly, the other format that this team tried is the confident versus apprehensive quadrant. In this exercise, the team drew, well, a quadrant, an axis of confidence versus apprehension, and another axis of people and tech. And now in this exercise, the team plotted different stickies on the board based on how they felt. So the team could say, I am confident about this aspect of our tech stack, or they could say, I am apprehensive about this aspect of our technology. They could also say things like, I'm confident about our team leaders' ability to push back on requirements. And they could also say something like, well, I'm actually kind of apprehensive about external stakeholders not giving us enough requirements up front. And this is a little bit different than your typical what went well, what didn't go so well format, because it gets you to think more about the tech and the people, which is what really makes software. It's tech and people. So to wrap things up, once all of these different formats were tried, the team got back together and they talked. And this is where the retro of retros comes in. They had one more retro where they talked about all of the different aspects and formats that they tried. And then they voted on which ones they really liked and which ones didn't work out so well. And after this, the team decided which retro format worked best for them. Now, you don't have to just stick to one format. You can even switch things up. So for example, this team decided to use the hot air balloon exercise maybe once a quarter or so to get them to think big picture on a regular basis, but they don't really need to use that for their sprint-to-sprint retro. So this is not just about changing the format of your current retro because you're bored. This is also about figuring out a good way to address what your team needs. So if your team really needs to think more big picture, then maybe you can use more of those types of retros to draw that out of your team. And cementing this as part of a team operating system also helps onboard new developers, because in that way they'll understand what makes the team tick. Now, you can use all of this for your own retro success. So if you need a little bit help figuring out how to spice up your retro, you can try some of these old tools, such as funretrospectives.com, retromat.org, and funretro.io, and you can find a lot of different types of formats that your team can try out. If you have any questions, I'm Cecy Correa on Twitter. I'm happy to talk to you about this exercise. Thank you.